Meaning in the restroom or just the restroom? Okay, okay. Yeah. The young female, she is in the restroom because they got minutes, so they can do it. We'll be out. Okay. I can open it. I can open it. All rise. Hear you. Some of criminal court division 3 is now for the transaction of business pursuant to adjournment. All persons having business before this court come for a judgment, you should be heard. James Jones, resign your seat, no talk. morning, everyone. Are we ready to bring the jury in? Zero's down to Chronicles, John. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen of our jury. As you can see, in Memphis, we operate on opposite ends of the spectrum. Sometimes it's going to be really hot, sometimes it will be cold. So if, as we did yesterday, if there's anything that we can do as far as your comfort, please let us know. We want you to be able to be attentive and not have any distractions. We are going to go ahead and proceed with the trial. Say you're ready with your next witness.
Derek Miller.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
All right, please have a seat, sir.
Please state your name to the court and spell it for the benefit of the court, please.
Derek Miller, Derek, Miller, Miller.
And how are you employed, Mr. Miller?
I'm a special agent with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation.
And in particular, what do you do with TBI?
I'm assigned to the Cybercrime and Digital Evidence Unit, so I used to be a digital forensic examiner. I now investigate cybercrimes for the state.
What is a digital forensic examiner?
A digital forensic examiner is somebody who is specially trained to extract data off of an electronic device, whether it be a cell phone, a USB drive, a computer, and forensically analyze that data in a manner that allows you to interpret it and see the data without changing it and manipulating it.
What kind of training have you had to do that?
I had my basic digital forensic training at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Brunswick, Georgia. That includes extracting data appropriately and then analyzing the data you've extracted. I've also attended numerous courses, advanced courses on digital forensics, several different specific companies that make software tools, training for those tools as well.
Have you had occasion to extract data from cell phones in particular?
Yes, sir.
Have you done that one time or many times?
Many times.
Describe to the jury how you do that.
We have special tools that review the contents of the phone without changing or manipulating the data that's already on that phone. So we call that forensically when we received it.
You continue to receive updated education and training with regard to extracting information from cell
Yes.
phones? Have you had occasion to testify in court about cell phone extractions that you've done?
Yes.
Have you had occasion to testify more or more than once?
Oh, many more times than once.
Have you ever been tendered to the court as an expert in this digital examination?
I have.
Your Honor, I would tender Special Agent Miller as an expert in digital forensics.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, so tender.
I want to call your attention to the case involving the death of Tyre Nichols. Were you asked in that case to do a forensic examination of defendant Haley's cell phone?
Yes, I was.
Before you were asked to do that, was your attention called to a certain poll cam video?
It was.
And in reviewing that video, well, let's watch that video and you tell us the point of the video that you're interested in.
Yes, sir.
For the record, this is a full cam video from the location.
All right, it's coming up here in just the next 30 seconds.
What is it that we're looking for?
The individual standing in front of Mr. Nichols has his light turned on him. He walks away, then he's going to step back up and kind of lean down with his light on Mr. Nichols. It looks like he's got a phone in his hand.
Time sent there is 20:40:10 for the record. Is that individual Demetrius Haley?
Yes,
Did that cause you interest in his cell phone?
it did.
We can stop the video. Were you able to attain Demetrius Haley's cell phone?
I was. Yeah, that device was submitted to me at the TBI.
iPhone 13 Plus with a phone number 901-581-3284.
I don't know the phone number off the top of my head. That's not part of the examination. I could look it up if you need me to.
Well, I'm just passing you
Okay.
documentation.
Okay.
on it, so.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, tell me what that is.
This is a property receipt from Demetrius Haley to TBI Special Agent Kim Covington for an iPhone 13 Plus with the phone number 901-581-3284 or 94.
If we could introduce that as state's number, so the counters, 2 pages.
Any objection? No objection. What exactly are the reports?
This is a submission of the fund to Agent Miller for examination.
So the two TDI receipts with phone information marked as exhibit 7.
Did you also obtain a consent to search from Mr. Haley with regard to this fund?
A consent to search was obtained. That was not something that I did.
I passed you a document. I snuck it in on here.
Sorry. That's correct. Yeah, this is a TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation consent to search form signed by Demetrius Haley for an iPhone 13 Plus. It looks like he provided his passcode, signed by him and TBI Special Agent Kim Covington.
We could offer that evidence as state's members of it.
Okay. TDI consent search marked as exhibit 18.
All right, tell us how you searched the phone and what you're looking for.
For this device, we use what's called a gray key. It is a specialized tool that was invented to extract data in a forensic manner, as I described earlier, from Apple iPhones. In this case, we obtained what's called a full file system. If you think about data on your phone, everything that makes the phone work, everything you do on your phone, pictures, text messages, internet browsing, that's all stored in what we call the full file system. Okay, think of a filing cabinet full of all of your data on a phone. When you delete something, the phone figuratively takes that piece of paper out of the filing cabinet and shreds it, and it becomes 2 different places. The deleted is not accessible. The non-deleted is still in that full file system. And so we're able to extract everything that had not been deleted from the iPhone.
Did you find anything in the iPhone from the timestamp that we saw around 2040?
Yes,
Around 840 that
I did. I found one Apple Live photo. If you're familiar with Apple phones, they take a picture and a video at the same time and mush them together, and it allows the viewer to see a couple seconds before and after they actually press the button. So one live photo taken at 8:40 and 8 seconds on January 7th.
Let me pass you this photograph and ask you if you recognize it.
This is the photo taken at 8:40:08.
Was it taken by defendant Haley's cell phone?
It was taken by a phone that matches the make and model of his phone.
Did you find it? Did you find it during the examination?
Yes.
We offer that in the evidence that states next on the exhibit.
Okay. So the photo from Haley's phone, that's exhibit 19.
Can we publish this exhibit? Yes, sir. Publish an exhibit 19 for the record. Where in defendant Haley's phone is this picture found?
There are multiple versions of this photo found in a directory that is associated with text messages. So the way an iPhone specifically works is you take the photo, it stores it in a folder. That folder is the same every time. If you do things with that photo, it may create another version of that photo. It's just the way computers work. They don't always point back to the same location. It is an effort to make your life easier and faster. And so these pictures are sort of considered duplicate versions of the original photo that is stored in a directory that it would only store if you sent it as a text message. That makes sense. So you take the picture, it stores it in folder A, you send it as a text message to somebody, it takes a copy of that and puts it in folder B.
If I understand you right, you found this in folder B, is that correct?
Correct.
How about folder A? I assume when I take a picture in my phone, that folder A would be like my photos.
Correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Did you find it in his photos?
No.
Why not?
There could be a number of reasons. Presumably, the simplest answer is that it had been deleted.
Deleted from file A, which is my photos or whatever, they call it. What is file B?
File B is, it's called SMS.db. It's a database of everything about text messages. SMS stands for short message service. It's old technology. When you used to send a text message of literally just text, it was called an SMS, a short message service. The acronym remains, they keep the same naming convention. So SMS has its own little bucket. And when you send something as a message, it goes into the SMS.db bucket. That's how we're able to know that this photo is associated with a text message, because the only way a file gets there is by sending an SMS or a text message.
Take the photo, it goes to my photos, but I deleted it out of my photos, but I've sent it in a text message. You can still find that photo in your phone, sounds like, is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you find that photo in my phone, does it still have what I'm gonna call it the metadata from the phone?
Correct.
From the picture?
Yes.
And when you found this picture in Haley's phone, does it still have the metadata associated with it?
It does.
And does it reflect the time that it was taken?
It does.
And what is that? What does it reflect?
8:40 and 8 seconds on January 7th, 2023, 8:40 p.m.
Okay, so consistent with the video that we just watched.
Correct.
Was there evidence in the phone that, I guess you've already testified to it, that Mr. Haley shared the photo or sent the photo to other people?
Yes.
Is there evidence in the phone how many times he shared the photo with other people and when?
Based on the number of files in the SMS.db directory, the folder B, as I mentioned earlier, it appears that the photo was shared at least 11 times, although we found conversation with 8 individuals about that photo.
Shared it up to 11 times, is that correct?
Correct.
But it says you found 8 people.
Correct.
In what time period is this photo shared?
The first message relative to the photo is at 8:43 p.m. on January 7th, 2023.
Okay, so that would be about two or 3 minutes after it's taken.
Correct.
How about when you said some of these shares have associated text messages.
Yes.
I'm not gonna ask you about those associated text messages, so I don't want you to read those. But if you can tell me when each share occurred, I appreciate that.
The first share, using your words, the first time that there's a conversation about the photo is at 8:43 p.m. That is a message with two individuals. The next message would be at 9 p.m. The next one also at 9 p.m. The next one would have been 10:19 p.m. Excuse me, 10:50 p.m. The next one 10:51. The next one 11:07 p.m.
I'm gonna ask you with regard to, did you find a particular text exchange that you have, that we printed out here before today?
I did.
Let me pass this to you. Tell me what this is.
This is a iMessage conversation, which iMessage is Apple's text messaging service when two iPhones are messaging each other. This is an iMessage conversation between Mr. Haley and somebody stored in his phone as MPD Fox Austin P.
And is that an extraction from Mr. Haley's phone?
It is.
I don't really have that marked, it says 62.
Okay, no objection. No objection. So the two-page text thread as exhibit 1.
Permission to publish exhibit 20, Judge?
Yes, sir.
All right, tell us what we're looking up here.
The top part is just information about the conversation. So in total, what you see the display names, local user is Mr. Haley's phone. MPD Fox Austin P is the other person in the conversation. You see number of participants is 2. The number of messages, 87, is how many messages exist in total between these two people. It's not worried about how many that you're about to see. It's 87 total. If we looked at everything those two people have ever done. The first message between them was November 16th, 2022, and the last message, January 8th, 2023.
So the very first time they texted with each other about whatever. Obviously,
Right. Correct.
Would have been November the 16th of 2022.
That's correct.
These messages we're looking at here from January 8th of 2023.
Correct.
And is it 6:05 p.m. correct?
No, it would be 12:05. UTC time is 6 hours ahead of Central Time. So this would be at 12 noon, essentially 12:05 p.m. Noon on January 8th.
So the incident with Mr. Nichols happened on 1/7 at approximately 8:30-ish, and this is the next day.
Correct.
What's the read the first?
Yes, the first bubble there, MPD Fox Austin P. This is meant to represent, the view of your phone. MPD Fox Austin P sends Mr. Haley a message that says, "Who beat dude up last night?" So gray in this iMessage conversation is Miss MPD Fox Austin P. Blue represents Mr. Haley's phone. So he says, "Who beat dude up last night?" Mr. Haley's phone responds, "Us."
So that's incoming, who beat dude up last night.
Correct.
And then a response from Mr. Haley's phone that says us.
Correct.
You can read the rest.
They relieve MPD Fox Austin P says they relieve some folks. FR, that is my interpretation of that, means for real. Mr. Haley's phone says, "Yeah, 6 of us." MPD Fox Austin P says, "Damn, I don't understand why though." Mr. Haley's phone says, "I guess it's just procedure." IDK, meaning I don't know. MPD Fox Austin P says, "Shit stupid, keep y'all head up, Brody. The city needs y'all. FR, again, for real, for real." Mr. Haley's phone says, "Appreciate it, bro."
You're pretty good at the text lingo. I've got to Google that stuff sometimes. I'll get an FR, I have to go and see what it is. No further questions? No further questions?
Interesting.
Thank you, John.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Agent, remember,
That's fine. Yes, sir.
you need a moment to
Nope.
straighten stuff out.
Nope, yes, sir.
Mike Stengel, I represent Demetrius Haley. Am I correct that in analyzing, once you've dumped the messages associated with this picture, that you were also able, like we just saw with and you were also able to identify, let me make sure I'm correct. For instance, talking about the text with MPD Fox Austin P. That identification comes from, that's how that phone number is stored in this phone, correct?
That is correct.
So that could be anybody.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it could be Mike Stengel, but stored as MPD Fox Austin. With respect to the several people you said were involved in text messages with this photo and Mr. Haley's phone, did you investigate who the recipients were?
That is not something that I did. No, sir.
So you are able to tell what stored contact name this phone engaged the stuff with the phone, correct?
Correct.
And am I correct that several of those, and you just, the first one, it was at 8:43, that was with two people, so that was sort of a three-person conversation.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And later on, am I correct that some of those texts were sent to people that the phone identifies as MPD somebody?
Correct.
More than one went to somebody, different people identified by MPD, correct?
That is correct.
Were you able to determine, like with MPD Austin, MPD Fox Austin P, whether that meant Memphis Police Department?
No, all I know is what's represented in the phone, just like you talked about a minute ago.
Okay. And some of the recipients of that photo had questions or comments about, text questions or comments about, correct?
Correct.
And at one point, in response to one of those questions, Mr. Haley texted that he grabbed his partner's gun, correct?
That is correct.
In addition to forensic examination of Mr. Haley's phone, in connection with this case, you also examined at least two other phones, correct?
That is correct.
One of them belongs to Tyre Nichols, is your understanding,
Yes,
correct?
sir. Correct.
And when you did that, with respect to Mr. Nichols' phone, you were focused on GPS location of the phone during a time period 8:15 or 8:20 p.m. on January 7th or a while after that, correct? And as a matter of fact, you plotted out a chart of the GPS location of that phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
And am I correct that several of the dots on your chart are at Ross and Brandon's?
I'd have to see it, sir. I'm not sure. There was a photo of the totality of the dots as well as a video file which displayed the dots in chronological order.
I'm going to approach you from this.
Yes,
You
sir.
recognize
Yes, sir.
that as a copy of part of your work product,
Yes, sir.
and that's from your forensic examination of Tyre Nichols' phone related to this case.
That's correct.
Your Honor, I'd ask that be marked as the next number. Sit it. No objection, Judge Snowden.
We'll show the report on Mr. Nichols' phone, exhibit 21.
With respect to examining Mr. Nichols' phone, other than focusing on the GPS location, what did you examine?
In this case, I gave 2 maps of GPS location as well as all of the contents of the phone to the investigator that submitted it to me. That's standard procedure.
Okay. Did you examine any of the text messages?
I don't know if I did or not, but they're not in my report.
Did you examine the contacts saved in the phone?
Again, I don't recall that, but
After extracting all of the data from the phone and giving it to the investigator, would the investigator be Agent Nick Ellis?
no, my report was provided to Charles Baker. Yeah, especially to Charles Baker.
So you gave the contents extracted from Tyre Nichols' phone to Agent Charles Becker, correct?
Correct.
You prepared these 2 reports of GPS location, correct?
That is correct.
And those will be to him.
Correct.
You didn't prepare any other reports?
Correct.
No reports on contact names, emails, text messages, social media, anything like that?
That is correct.
Online purchases or anything?
That's correct.
I'm going to have a moment with my clients, Your Honor. Ask the witness. Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Stingle asked you about the contact names that it was sent to. Do you have a list of names?
I have it on my computer.
Do you remember that? Do you remember the names it was sent to?
Oh, on Mr. Haley's phone?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I wasn't.
Yes.
Asked you about Mr. Nichols' phone at the end,
Yes.
but no, I'm sorry. I should have. I mistook myself. I was asking about Mr. Haley's phone.
The contact names or contact information related to the photo,
Yeah, we
Okay.
did a photo sensor in his list.
I do have those.
What are they?
The first one is, let me summarize all of these. I have a name that is stored in the phone associated with the phone number. So for every one of these, I have the phone number, which is a factual thing, that is what it is, and then the name that Mr. Haley's phone associates with that number. So the first name is MPD Jazz, parentheses, Lil Sis, in parentheses, property and evidence. The second name is Brittany. Third name is, I may get the pronunciation wrong, Vashti, Vashhtye. The fourth name is Bree Beal, Bribeale. The fifth name is Shamika, ATC. Number 6 is MPD Mike Mount Moriah Task Force. 7 is MPD Smith OCU.
What's the phone number for that?
901-254-9333. And the last name is MPD McKinney SVO.
That's my first description.
Anything else to this witness? After those are all the questions.
Yes, sir.
I think so.
Thank you all.
State, are you ready with the next witness?
Yes, Judge. The state calls Ms. Radrisha Mackey. Ms. Mackey, will you step this way, please?
You solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you give today will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God. That's he.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Mackey, will you please say and spell both your first and last name for the court reporter?
Yes, my name is Radrisha Mackey, RODRESHA, last name Mackey, MACKEY.
Ms. Mackey, I know this is probably obvious, but do you work for the Memphis Police Department?
Yes, I do.
And as part of your job working with the Memphis Police Department, do you maintain and preserve records?
Yes,
Will one of those records be an oath of office?
yes.
Can you tell this jury what an oath of office is?
It's when the officer make a promise to perform their duties.
And when is that oath administered?
Upon graduation,
And is it part of Memphis Police Department policy to maintain those records?
yes,
Did you bring those records with you here to court?
I did.
Can you open that envelope, I believe that you carried? And take a look at the contents.
Yes, this is the oath of office.
Can you tell us who those oaths of office are for?
Tadarrius Bean, Emmitt Martin III, Demetrius Haley, Justin Smith, and Desmond Mills Jr.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask that Ms. Rodriguez Mackey be tendered as a keeper of records for those documents and acts that they be added as the next number exhibit.
First, as far as any objection to being the keeper of the records?
Objection. No, no objection, Your Honor.
All right, as far as this being the next label exhibit,
No objection.
is this gonna be one collective?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's exhibit 22.
Your Honor, permission to publish the oath of office to the jury by having it read aloud. Memphis Police Department oath of office, last name Bean, first name Tadarrius. Section 133, basic recruit. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Tennessee, the laws and ordinance of this city, and that I will faithfully comport myself while in office. So help me God. Signed by Mr. Tadarrius Bean on the 14th of January, 2021. First name Emmitt, last name Martin, section 125, same language. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Tennessee, the laws and ordinance of the city, and that I will faithfully comport myself while in office. So help me God. Signed by Mr. Emmitt Martin. Demetrius Haley, basic recruit 133, same language. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Tennessee, the laws and ordinance of this city, and that I will faithfully comport myself while in office, so help me God. Signed by Defendant Haley. First name Justin, last name Smith. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Tennessee, the laws and ordinances of this city, that I will faithfully comport myself while in office. So help me God. Signed by Defendant Justin Smith. Last name Mills, first name Desmond. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Tennessee, the laws and ordinances of this city, and that I will faithfully comport myself while in office, so help me God. Signed by Defendant Desmond Mills. Ms. Megan, with those have been the oath of office that every officer takes upon graduation. Yes, sir. Just this time I pass the meeting.
No questions, John. No questions. No questions, John.
Thank you.
State, you ready with your next witness?
Yes, sir. State calls Dr. Ross.
Step forward on this. I swear affirm that the testimony you give today will be the truth, the truth, so help you God. I do. That's easy.
Dr. Ross, please state and spell your first and last name for the jury, please.
Marco, Marco, Ross, Ross,
Dr. Ross, where are you employed?
at the West Tennessee Regional Forensic Center
How long have you been there?
since March of 2007,
What is your current title or position?
Chief Medical Examiner and Forensic Pathologist.
How long have you held that position?
I've been the Chief Medical Examiner for approximately 3 years now, as Forensic Pathologist since I started there,
What are your duties as the chief medical examiner?
to oversee the operations of the West Tennessee Regional Forensic Center and to direct the activities of staff pathologists.
Can you tell the jury a little bit about your educational background before becoming the chief medical examiner?
I received my medical degree from Tulane University in 1985. I then completed a residency in general surgery at the University of South Carolina in 91, and then served as a surgeon in the U.S. Navy from 91 to 95. Following that, I completed a residency in anatomic and clinical pathology at the University of Vermont in 1999, and a forensic pathology fellowship at the University of North Carolina in 2000. Following that, I served as a medical examiner in Phoenix, Arizona for 2.5 years, then Spokane, Washington for 4.5 years before coming to Memphis.
And as part of your duties, are you a member of a
And I am board certified in anatomic and clinical pathology as well as forensic pathology, and hold memberships in the National Association of Medical Examiners and the American Academy of Forensic Sciences.
Dr. Ross, can you tell the jury a little bit, as a medical examiner, what do you do on a day-to-day basis? What are your actual job duties?
We are responsible for evaluating those deaths that occur either due to unnatural means or are sudden and unexpected deaths, or deaths that occur without the attendance of a physician.
Do you perform autopsies?
Yes.
And tell the jury a little bit about how you go about doing that.
When we perform an autopsy, that is an examination of the body, both the outer surfaces and internal structures of the body. We start by examining the outer surfaces and removing clothing, looking at skin surfaces, looking for evidence of disease and injury. Then we proceed with an internal examination, which means making incisions in the chest, abdomen, and head in order to examine the internal structures, organs, and tissues of the body, also looking for evidence of disease and injury.
Dr. Ross, in your career as a forensic pathologist, approximately how many autopsies would you say you have performed?
I'm on the order of about 5,000 autopsies at this point in my career.
And in the course of your duties as a medical examiner, have you had occasion to testify in court?
Yes, I have.
Have you testified here in these state courts?
Yes, I have.
Have you testified in this court in particular?
Yes, I have.
Have you testified also in federal courts?
Yes, I have.
Your Honor, at this time, I would tender Dr. Ross as an expert in forensic pathology.
Any objection? No objection. No objection, Mr. Smith. So voted.
Thank you, Judge. Can you tell the jury, you just described what an autopsy is and what you do. When you go about performing an autopsy, do you have occasion sometimes to review additional records? Maybe if the patient transferred to you from a hospital, on occasion, would you look at hospital records?
Yes.
Would you look at ambulance run reports if that was available?
Yes.
And does that information come to your office, or is that something you have to request additionally?
We usually have to request it on occasion. It comes by other means, but usually we actually request it from those sources.
And you described to the jury generally what an autopsy is. When you do that autopsy, do you, when you make your findings, do you also prepare sometimes diagrams that go along with that report?
Yes, part of the autopsy includes making notations, usually on diagrams at the time of autopsy, and those will often get incorporated at least into the case file, not into the report itself.
Do you take photographs during the autopsy as well?
Yes, we do.
Those photographs often document injuries or the findings that you make.
Correct.
In each autopsy you perform, is that autopsy given a unique identifying number?
Yes, it is.
And in the case today, we're interested in autopsy 2300-0074. Are you familiar with that autopsy?
Yes, I am.
And who was the patient in that autopsy you performed?
Tyre Nichols.
And in this particular case, did you prepare that full report we've just been discussing?
Yes.
Do you recall, as we just mentioned in the case of Tyre Nichols, did you have occasion to review additional hospital records?
Yes, it is.
I want to pass you a document. And Dr. Ross, if you'll pull it through that and tell me if you recognize what that is.
These are copies of our report of investigation, the autopsy report, the neuropathology consultation report, the toxicology reports, associated diagrams, as well as an evidence release report and a copy of the death certificate.
Does that appear to be a full copy of the autopsy report for Tyre Nichols?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I would ask that this be marked as the next number exhibit.
Objection.
bring, your own copy of that report with you for today.
Yes, I did.
When was this autopsy performed?
It was performed on January 11, 2023.
And who performed this autopsy?
Myself and Dr. Laura Bagwell, who was a fellow in training at the time.
And pass you a photograph. Sorry, Graham. Dr. Ross, do you recognize this photograph?
Yes, I do.
What is pictured there?
It's a photograph of the face of the deceased Tyre Nichols taken at the time of autopsy.
Does it also have that specific autopsy number that you mentioned earlier?
Yes, it does.
And does every photograph that's taken during the autopsy have that identifying number in it?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, I've asked this to be marked as the next.
Any objections? No objection. We'll show the photo of Mr. Nichols' face on the autopsy as exhibit 44.
Your Honor, permission to publish. And looking at the screen, Dr. Ross, is that Tyre Nichols as you encountered him on January 11th during the autopsy?
Yes, it is.
Dr. Ross, you mentioned when you go about to perform an autopsy, you first start with an external examination and then do the internal examination. So I want to start today with the external examination. First, and I believe there may be some diagrams in the autopsy that could be helpful in explaining this, but did you do the external examination of Mr. Nichols?
Yes.
And tell the jury a little bit about how you go about that.
We just look over the surfaces of the body. We evaluate for any irregularities or abnormalities on the skin surfaces, make notations of things such as size, color, distribution of any of the abnormal areas.
Did you find such abnormal areas in this particular case?
Yes, we did.
And did you document those?
Yes, we did.
And did you diagram them,
Yes,
photograph?
yes.
I want to draw your attention to one of those diagrams within the autopsy. I believe there are several diagrams, but the one in particular that's labeled first, let's start with external evidence of injury.
Yes.
And Your Honor, this is part of the autopsy that's been admitted. I'm asked permission to publish that diagram so the jury can follow along. And if I could also pass Dr. Ross a laser pointer in case it may be useful.
It should have worked. What's this year?
And Dr. Ross, we may need to test that. I think we have to point it at the screen to see if it's working. Dr. Ross, if I may have it back, it may be. Thank you. It's a large circle, but not a red dot. Well, Dr. Ross, we may have to do it without a laser laser pointer. If you will, Dr. Ross, if you would step down, and I have a copy of that here, sort of discussed with the jury, and I apologize. The types of injuries we see here, and they can also see on the diagram behind me.
What we documented on this diagram are the locations of abrasions, otherwise, or scrape marks on the body. Those are labeled with the letter A. And then we also noted the locations of contusions, also known as bruises, labeled with the letter C for contusion. So on this diagram, you can see several letters A and C referring to abrasions and contusions. There are abrasions on the right side of the face, on top of the left and right shoulder, over the central chest region. There are also abrasions on the knees and on the fingers of the left hand, and there are right hand, and then there are also on the elbows. Then there are areas of bruising on the right upper arm, the right forearm, the right hip and abdomen region, and also on the left lower leg and on the left side of the neck.
And those injuries you just discussed, would these be more what we may refer to as superficial injuries? As you mentioned, bruising, but then the abrasions are just sort of scraping type injuries?
This is what we see on the surface of the skin, and some of it remains a little bit more superficial and limited to the skin. Some of it is continuous with deeper injuries of the body.
And is that something that you can then learn more about as you do your internal examination?
Correct.
If you'll resume your seat on the witness stand, I'm going to pass you, Dr. Ross, some photographs of those injuries you just discussed. Your Honor, if I may pass all of these and then we'll admit it collectively, it may just be easier. Dr. Ross, the first photograph, can you tell me what you see there?
This is a photograph of the right side of the face, showing an area of scrape mark and a little bit of bruising on the right temple region of the face.
Thank you. Can you describe the next photograph?
The next one is a photograph showing the lips been lifted up so that we can see that there is a broken tooth. The right medial or middle incisor has been broken. The next photograph shows an abrasion on the left elbow. The next photograph shows abrasions on the right knee. The next photograph also shows abrasions on the right knee, just a little bit more, not as close up as the previous photograph. The next photograph shows an abrasion on the left knee. And the next photograph shows abrasions on the some of the knuckles of the right hand. And the next photograph shows abrasions on the top of the right shoulder. And the next photograph shows an abrasion on the left shoulder.
And the photographs that you just looked at, are those photographs consistent with the injuries you just discussed in the diagram?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, I would ask that these photographs and mark as the next collected exhibit.
I only asked if you give them the document, the non-sequential numbers, the way you read it, just for the sake of the record. And 1 through 9. I don't mind it being as cumulative exhibit, but it should be.
There's something to say. Well, if there is going to be a cumulative exhibit, there's not going to be a sum number for each of these. It will just be one part of the exhibit. And so if someone's going to reference it, you'll just need to reference exactly what the picture is. Some people, 9 photos will show this as a collective exhibit, exhibit 25 of the autopsy.
Thank you, Judge. Your Honor, if I may, publish to the jury, and again, if I could just have Dr. Ross step down and with these photographs, show the jury what he's.
Face, you can see the eye is over here, and the ear is back here, right around here. And then right here next to the right eye on the right temple, there's this sort of darker area here, and then you see kind of a reddish, pinkish area down there. That represents an abrasion or a scrape mark on the right temple region. Some of it is just darker because it's healing or beginning to heal and scab over in some areas. There may be some associated bleeding underneath those tissues as well. This is a photograph where we have lifted up the upper lip to show that the tooth on the right side, the incisor tooth, has been broken. You can see that the one on the left side is intact, the one on the right side is a broken tooth. It's a photograph showing the left elbow, right, and there is an abrasion or a scrape mark on the left elbow, that reddish pinkish lesion is a scrape mark. A photograph of the right knee, several of those pinkish reddish scrape marks around the right knee. Another photograph of the same injury, just taken further back so you can see it relative to the rest of the leg above and below the knee area. And on this one, you can see another abrasion, that pinkish area on the left knee. And these are some scrape marks on the back or knuckle area of the right hand. And this is a photograph of the top of the right shoulder, showing those kind of reddish brownish areas are additional abrasions, scrape marks on top of the right shoulder. And this is on top left shoulder, showing another area of reddish brown area. Great.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. I'm going to draw your attention to another diagram in your autopsy report labeled injuries at the top. If I could pass you, I know you have your report as well. Copy. As opposed to the one that we just discussed, does this one have more detail about injuries?
Yes, the previous diagram simply showed the locations of the injuries. In this diagram, we are including a description of the injuries, primarily that of size and coloration of the injury.
And is that what the notations, on several of these notations, there's numbers out to the side? Can you tell the jury what that?
Yes, those numbers refer to the dimensions or size of that injury in inches.
I want to ask you about one thing in the autopsy report. It says that it says that Mr. Nichols was 73 inches tall and weighed 209 pounds.
Correct.
If the information was that Mr. Nichols weighed much less prior to this incident, is there any explanation for, upon your contact with Mr. Nichols, why he would weigh that amount?
Because of the amount of fluids administered to him medically during his hospitalization, the hospitalization records in most hospitalized cases, they keep a fairly accurate recording of the amount of fluids given to the body. Primarily, it's either fluids ingested, dietary fluids. It also includes intravenous fluids. Are also administered, but primarily intravenous fluids of some variety. And then they also measure output. And in this case, it's primarily urine, the amount of urine that occurred. And during his stay in the hospital, as I recall, the record showed that he had received approximately 25 and a half liters of fluid, but had only put out about 4 liters of fluid. So he's got an excess of 20 and a half liters of fluid in his body. So that's how much more fluid is retained by his body that was not excreted by the body. And that amount comes out to about 5.7 gallons, if I remember right. And in terms of weight, that amount of, that is 5.7 gallons of water is about 40 pounds. So it can explain why he has so much additional weight, because of all the fluid that he was administered but retained. And the reason he retained all that fluid is because he had a very low urine output during his hospitalization.
Thank you for that explanation. We discussed some of his external injuries. Dr. Ross, I want to move now to the internal examination. I want to focus primarily on what your findings were regarding the examination of the head and neck area.
Yes. What the internal examination of the head and neck showed was that there were some injuries of the what we call subscapular and subgaleal tissues. These refer to, on the scalp of the head, you have areas primarily just kind of underneath the skin. Those are the subscapular tissues. And then there's this layer of kind of more fibrous tissue that covers the skull, sort of between the skull and the skin. That's called the galea. And there was blood both underneath that galea layer as well as in the subscapular tissues, and we noted that in the left back of the head, the left occipital region, the left frontal or left front part of the head, and also in the very extensive area of hemorrhage on the scalp tissues on the right side of the head. In addition to that, there was a muscle on each side of the head called the temporal muscle, and there was a hemorrhage within that muscle on the right side of the head. We then proceeded with an internal examination of the head, and looking at the brain, saw that there were areas of some contusion or bruising on the brain surfaces towards the front, sort of the left side, what we call the left temporal cortex, and then when we did examinations by making sections in the brain, we could see that there were injuries and hemorrhages inside the brain tissue. The most significant of which was a large area of tearing of the brain tissue on the left side of the brain that extended from near the surface of the brain on the outer left side and towards the front, and extending into the deeper structures of the brain on the left side, and a lot of hemorrhage associated with this actual tearing of the tissue. We also noted a smaller area of tearing on the right outer part of the brain as well, also with hemorrhage in that lesion. Then, as part of the examination of this, we also microscopically looked at the brain tissue and could see that in addition to these areas of hemorrhage that were occurring relating to the contusions or bruising on the surface of the brain, as well as the tearing of tissues on the more internal parts of the brain, we could see what is known as axonal injury. The axons are parts of the brain cells. The brain cells themselves or nerve cells are composed of a body of the cell, the main part of the cell being located in the brain, but then there are axons, which are these long processes that extend from the main part of the cell of a nerve and connect with other cells, other nerves, and down even into the spinal cord. So these axons are important for sending information from the main body of a nerve cell so that it can send an electrical signal or impulse to other nerve cells in other parts of the body. When there are injuries to those cells, you can disrupt those axons, and there are special stains we can use to look at those axons, and that is called axonal injury. And he had evidence of axonal injury in multiple areas of his brain. And based upon the distribution of those axonal injuries, we can determine if it's primarily because of traumatic disruption of those axons, or sometimes those axons can be disrupted by a lack of blood flow to those areas, and that's called more of a vascular type. Indeterminate pattern, but there were multiple areas of clear traumatic pattern of axonal injury, indicating that these axons had been disrupted because of the shear effect of traumatic forces being applied to the brain.
You talked about axonal injuries. When you discussed the hemorrhaging, but also the tears within the brain, I think in your report it's referred to as torsional injury.
It's a type of torsional injury. It's evidence of a torsional injury, which would mean to indicate that the brain itself is not entirely fixed within the head. It can shift because the brain is surrounded by a layer of fluid called cerebrospinal fluid, which allows the ability of the brain to shift around a little bit independently of your movement of the skull. But if your skull or head is forced to move in a manner very rapidly, the brain may have difficulty sort of catching up with that. And when it does, you get different forces that twist on that brain, and that actually tears on the brain tissue. That's what's called torsional injury.
In your experience, Dr. Ross, when have you most commonly seen these types of torsional injuries where you have the twisting and the tearing of the brain within the skull?
Most commonly, in my experience, I've usually seen those kinds of injuries, like car accidents, for example, or people falling off of a height of some sort.
Can you explain to the jury why that would happen in a car accident?
Again, it's the power of the forces that's involved with the impact on the head, and a lot would have to do with the positioning of the head and where the motor vehicle might impact and how strained an individual is and whether or not the head itself may impact or not with other parts of the vehicle or independently because of the forces of a motor vehicle.
After you completed the initial autopsy portion, and I mean the actual examination of external and internal organs of Mr. Nichols as you described, was there some additional work that had to be done to make these determinations of the brain injuries?
Well, I mean, when we looked at the brain ourselves, we did also consult with a neuropathologist, Dr. Walker, in New York, and she looked over our case as well, looked at all of the photographs that we took of the case, as well as we sent her all of the microscopic slides that we had performed on this case. We sent to her for her interpretation.
Did you also, after completing the autopsy and conferring with the neuropathologist, did you view the video, any video in this case?
Yes.
And was that what we refer to as a skycop video or pole cam video?
Yes, I believe so.
Your Honor, if I may show that video to Dr. Ross now. Dr. Ross, it takes a minute for the camera to get there. 29. Dr. Ross, is that video part of what you reviewed in preparing the autopsy in this case?
Yes.
What you see on that video, is that consistent with the injuries you found when you did the autopsy?
Yes, it is.
I want to talk a little bit and starting with the external injuries we discussed. You explained to the jury, you've seen some photographs, what you see on that video. Tell the jury what you saw on that video that's consistent with those injuries.
Primarily, all of the in blows that he received or from the other individuals. He received blows to the back and to the arms that would account for some of the bruising, as well as the areas of hemorrhaging that we saw deep in the muscular tissue during the autopsy. And then the impacts to the head and the both some kicking and fist punching of the head that caused direct impacting to the brain, which would lead to bruising of the brain surfaces, as well as some of those blows did result in sort of these twisting maneuvers of the head that would have resulted in the torsional injuries that we saw within the brain.
Well, let me start with this, Dr. Ross. What is the sort of chain of events, so to speak? You talked about these brain injuries as well as the injuries on his body from this trauma. What starts to happen physiologically within Mr. Nichols' body after he sustains these blows?
Due to the injuries to the brain that were sustained, the brain itself responds by beginning to swell. Swelling is a normal tissue response to injury. Example, you bump yourself and you get a bruise really hard, and that area of skin and tissue around it can swell some. Well, the brain itself swells. The problem with the brain swelling is that it's swelling inside the skull, which itself cannot expand. So when the brain tissue swells inside the skull, there's increased blood pressure, increased pressure in the tissues of the brain. And what happens because of that increased tissue pressure inside the brain, it can affect the blood flow in the brain. And it can actually, that pressure itself can sort of squeeze down on some of the blood vessels. And so you actually get a loss of blood supply to certain areas of the brain. And the areas of the brain that can be affected by this include areas of the brain that can affect and control heart rate and breathing. And so head injuries such as this with swelling can lead to a cardiopulmonary arrest, which is what occurred in Mr. Nichols' case. He was transported to the hospital, and with resuscitation measures, they were able to resuscitate him to the point where his heart activity returned, but there was persistent brain injury. He remained comatose during that, even after resuscitation. There was some activity that made them concerned that he might be having a little bit of seizure activity. They used seizure medications, but subsequently, over the next few days, he progressed to the point where they determined that he no longer had any brain activity and was pronounced brain dead.
Typically, as part of an autopsy, is toxicology a part of that?
Yes.
And in this case, are there toxicology reports from Mr. Nichols?
Yes, there are.
Are there more than one?
Yes, there is.
When and what
blood, and even a vitreous fluid, which is a type of fluid from the eye, and we will send those to an outside laboratory for analysis. In addition, in a case such as this, or anybody who's been in the hospital, we try to also collect some samples near or around the time of hospital admission, also for testing if needed.
And I should have started with this, Dr. Ross. When we say toxicology, tell the jury what that means.
Toxicology testing involves the laboratory testing blood, fluid, and tissue samples for the presence of drugs, poisons, and other substances in the body.
What, if any, substances did Mr. Nichols test positive for?
The toxicology results revealed that there was ethanol that was detected, or alcohol, also caffeine, nicotine, naloxone, also known as Narcan, which had been administered by EMS, lorazepam, which is a benzodiazepine Valium type drug, and levetiracetam, which is an anti-seizure drug. Both of those drugs were administered in the hospital because of concerns about possible seizure activity as a result of the brain injury. The testing also revealed the presence of cannabinoids or marijuana products, to include delta-9 carboxy THC, which is a breakdown product, and also delta-9 THC, which is the active ingredient of marijuana.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. I want to go now to what were specifically, we've talked about a lot of these, but per the autopsy report, what specifically were the pathological diagnoses in this case for Mr. Nichols?
The pathological diagnoses included blunt force injuries of the head and neck, which in that category included multiple cortical contusions, that is, contusions or bruising on the surface of the brain, as well as rotational or torsional injury of the brain manifested by the hemorrhagic tears and the axonal injury of the brain. Also cerebral edema or swelling of the brain, and acute hypoxic ischemic changes of the brain, meaning the lack of oxygenation of certain areas of the brain due to swelling of the brain. That's what hypoxic ischemic refers to. The subscapular and subgaleal hemorrhages of the scalp, and abrasions and contusions on the face and scalp. In addition, there were blunt force injuries of the torso of the body, which included abrasions and contusions, as previously discussed, and some intramuscular hemorrhages of the chest and the back. There were also blunt force injuries of the extremities, again with multiple abrasions and contusions, in areas of diffuse intramuscular hemorrhages of the extremities. There was also the typical sequelae that we see after an individual who has had a cardiac arrest and then resuscitated, depending upon how long there has been a loss of blood flow to certain organs and structures. You can see the result of some type of organ damage from that. And in this case, there was hepatic necrosis, meaning within the liver, there were areas of necrosis or damage to the liver tissue that had resulted from a lack of blood flow during to the liver during the cardiac arrest. In addition, there was pulmonary edema or excess fluid in the lungs, which can have multiple causes, including a resuscitation phenomenon after cardiac arrest.
I'm going to pause you there and take your attention back to an omitted question regarding the toxicology. You mentioned a number of substances, some of them the jury obviously familiar with, caffeine, nicotine, alcohol. What was Mr. Nichols' alcohol level?
The alcohol level that we measured in a blood sample collected shortly after admission was 49 milligrams per deciliter, which is a 0.049 on the breathalyzer scale.
.049. When was that sample taken?
That was a sample that was collected at 11 p.m. on the evening of January 7th.
The subsequent toxicology results, did they show any alcohol?
There was actually the first sample that we had requested to be tested, which was actually a sample that was collected later, a few hours later, showed no alcohol in the blood. And that's to be expected after a certain time period. The alcohol does degrade or metabolize away.
The THC
nanograms per milliliter, and the delta 9 carboxy THC, which is a breakdown product or an inactive metabolite of marijuana, was 47 nanograms per milliliter.
and can you make any determinations, or what does that tell you?
Well, those are the kinds of levels that one might see with typical recreational use of marijuana in terms of its effects. It can be quite variable depending upon a person's use of the drug in the past.
I want to draw your attention back to the pathological diagnoses and talking about sort of that chain of events that you mentioned earlier that would be happening in Mr. Nichols' body after he received the injuries we saw in that video. And you mentioned that he did have a cardiac arrest on the scene. How quickly do all of those, that chain of events start happening after injuries of this nature?
Well, with the injury to the brain, it can be quite variable from individual to individual, depending upon the degree of initial injury to the brain, excuse me, and how much that can affect the areas that particularly may have some impact on respiration or breathing and cardiac activity. So there's a lot of variables that go into how quickly brain injury can result in cardiac arrest. In some cases, it can be virtually instantaneous. In other cases, it may take hours to get to that point. Once the cardiac arrest occurs and there's a lack of blood flow, then that further injures other areas almost immediately, such as in his case, if it's a superimposed already pre-existing injury of the brain, as well as impacting the liver and particularly the kidneys in his case as well. That's one of the reasons why he had such a low urine output during his hospitalization, is because of what's called acute renal failure, or kidneys were shutting down because they had been injured as a result of lack of blood flow during the time of the cardiac arrest.
And so because we do know that he went into cardiac arrest on the scene, we do sort of have a timeline for what happened to Mr. Nichols. And then, as you mentioned, the next thing that starts to happen within the body is organ failure. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
What effect, if any, you described how those brain injuries begin to cause that chain of events. What effect, if any, do these other injuries, the blunt force injuries on the torso, or the blunt force injuries on his extremities, what impact, if any, do those injuries have on what's going on?
Well, there are two impacts. Number one, there's hemorrhage into those tissues. So it's basically an effective loss of blood volume from what would normally be circulating and providing adequate oxygenation to his other tissues. In addition to that, when there's injury to muscular tissues, you get breakdown of that muscle tissue. It's called rhabdomyolysis, which releases a number of factors from the muscular tissues into the bloodstream. And those eventually get filtered out by the kidney, and that can be another factor that also contributes to kidney shutdown or renal failure, when these substances that are kind of leaked out of the muscular tissues get into the kidney.
Dr. Ross, based on your findings in this autopsy report, ultimately, what was the cause of death?
The cause of death was certified as blunt force injuries of the head.
What was the manner of death?
the manner of death was certified as a homicide.
Hold on, please, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
I'll pass the witness.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're going to take a brief recess at this time, allow you all to step out, and then we'll proceed with the cross-examination of Dr. Ross. We'll go ahead and excuse the jury. All right, jury's exited the courtroom. We're going to stand in recess 15 minutes. If y'all can be back at 11:05.
Damn, they done got loud as hell. So what y'all think so far with the testimony from the medical examiner? Well, let's hope so. I really hope so. I hope that justice is served. I do. Paul, get your fat ass head out the way. You should not be smiling. The lackluster ass performance you done gave for the past 2 days. I'm glad you done passed it over to the females because, yeah. You've been with the bullshit, sir. But I am glad he has passed some of it to the females. I don't know. I think women, no offense to the male, attorneys and DAs or nothing like that, but sometimes when women are, it can be more, I want to say like emotional, how they come off with things. So, and they're able to relate to, like the mother or the jury. So I think that was smart, having the women do, like with the lady cop, with her testimony and with the medical examiner. I think it was smart. But what I do know is I know half of Memphis probably done called them 2 cops. Mr. DA sat here and done doxed these folks in open court. Oh, Cash, I'm not going to say that. I'm not at all. Yeah, DA said, can you read that number out for me, please? Oh shit. And I would go, sure as shit, I go over to Fox and Fox. I say so. The number's disconnected, y'all. Oh shit. That was hilarious. But that's why I can't. Some people are very ignorant to this case instead of just looking at the facts of what's been presented and what we have. But no, we have to. It was a conspiracy. One cop targeted him. Somebody put an air tag on his car. Well, if they put an air tag on his car, why they didn't find it? Because you got to think about it. The FBI, IA, everybody was all over this case. DOJ, don't you think they would have found it if that was the case? The only way I can say it was a targeted attack is when he ran and they pepper sprayed themselves. Yeah. At that point, yeah. It became a targeted attack. Absolutely. Because we heard Justin, we heard it on the body cam. I hope they stomped that motherfucker out. His words, not mine. At that point, yeah, he did become a target because he made them fucking work, do their job. You have to pay a run tax. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is here in Memphis. And they took it too far. I don't think there's no conspiracy behind that. I don't think, especially a lot of people get hung up on the text messages and Haley sending the messages to people. But as I've stated like 1,000,001 times, Haley didn't send that to say, oh, look what I did to your boyfriend. No, he did that to gloat. He did it to gloat, bottom line. Yeah, let's just hope the jury sees that. Because, Paul likes showing his fat ass head, apparently. I hope so. Because one too many cases have we seen where they haven't done right. Let's be 100 about that. The only one I really think that has ever gotten justice, and I don't know if you consider it justice, is Derek Chauvin. And that's just being 100. And like I said, they are already talking about pardoning his ass, so. And I don't know if it's because his ass got shanked up or what. He should have knew that. He should have stayed in PC. I don't know why the hell your ass thought you were safe in GP. Because as soon as they asked for your paperwork and they would have saw you were a former cop, yeah, there's a target on your back. because GP don't play this shit. The first thing they ask for is your paperwork. But I hope so. I hope the jury does come back. Did I dream this yesterday? I think I dreamed this. They still haven't shown the jury, have they? That's how much this damn case has consumed me. I swear, I think I dreamed that I saw the jury. I didn't think so. Yeah, I did dream that shit. Okay. Which is surprising that I even remember that, because I don't never remember my dreams. Ever. Cash, any other time they'll show the jury. I want to know why they being hush-hush about this one. Hell, soon as which one was it? Vala? As soon as they got done with her shit, man, they were all in the jury's face. Motherfuckers. Kitty Coo is on the other side of Tennessee. Chad is in West 10, which is a completely different demographic, completely different as far as living goes. It's completely different. Completely different. As I've stated before, Memphis is 54% black, while Chat is 74% white, or 73. It's 74 or 73. And only 18% is black. So completely different. Because one of the news did look it up to see what is basically how do you select a jury from another city. And there is no laws. There is basically it just has to be the same as Memphis. But like I said, there's no city in Tennessee like Memphis. There's no other city in Tennessee like Memphis. You're just not. You're not gonna find that. I don't care what town, what city, what little holler you go to. You're not. Because nobody in the state of Tennessee has the demographics like Memphis does. Like I said, Memphis is the only Democratic-led city in Tennessee. Yeah, Nashville hate us. They hate us. Nashville hates us. Really, a majority of the state hates us. For one, because we are a Democratic-led city. Two, because we sat here and pissed off the Senate and House reps because they ousted some of our guys. It was all over the news. and they had to have this special election. Well, the guys ran again. So what happened? I didn't, because they wasn't even in my jurisdiction, so I didn't vote. But they basically got reelected, and Nashville got mad as hell at us and started threatening us, and basically said they would withhold funding, all type of shit, which they have done to Memphis. Nashville has withheld funding. Nashville is currently trying to take over our school system. Nashville fucking hates Memphis. They say our crime is out of control, which I do agree with that. I'm not gonna lie about that, but it's that crime is everywhere. I don't give a fuck where you go, no matter what city you go to, crime is everywhere. You can go to the country and that shit still happens. So it doesn't. To me, it is what it is, you know. But Nashville cannot stand us. They treat us like fucking redheaded stepchilds. They do fuck shit to us. They purposely pass laws to target Memphis. So yeah, and like Chad, Knox, Nash, all of them pretty much look down on Memphis because of the news that come out of Memphis. Even though we're rich in history and we have so much to offer from the city, it is strictly because our demographics. I hate to say it, but that's what it is. It's strictly our demographics because we are majority a black city. They don't like that. Yeah, oh yeah. Memphis definitely fucked up our school system. They absolutely did. Memphis City School Board sucks ass. They know it. That's why they're under the gun right now. We've had how many superintendents in the past 5 years alone? We can't keep nobody. Every time we hire somebody, a scandal fucking happens. Teachers do mass walkouts. We had one superintendent do mass firing through emails. The emails were leaked. That was all over the news. It was bad as far as our schools. Like, we just had a school board member. Now, true enough, I will say, what the Latino girl said to the school board member was definitely fucked up. She was calling her all type of bitches and hoes. She was. I'll say that. I'm not. But the school board member responded by saying, I hope they deport your ass. And she's black. So there's that. Yeah, Kitty Coo. It was all over the news. Yeah. Because the Latino girl sent her a message on Facebook basically telling her she sucked. She was a horrible school board member. She should resign, yada, yada. And the school board member responded back, I hope your ass get deported. Sure did. And that shit was all over the news. They even had a petition going to get her ass out of there. Last time I checked, it was like at 1,000 signatures or something. And a lot of people were like, hell no. That's some racist ass shit. But that's just, never mind. I ain't even gonna go there. Because people like arguing with me about that. But I will say, everybody in every race can be racist. Hey, bro, you said 11:05. We at damn near 11:10. What the fuck? See, you, Jones Jr., Judge Jones Jr., you need to be running a tight motherfucking schedule. If you tell these folks to bring their ass back at 11:05, then their asses need to be seated with their pens in their hand and ready to learn at 11:04. Cash, yes. Do you know how many racist ass black people I know? Do you know how colorist black people are some of the world's worst when it comes to colorism? And this is speaking from experience. I'm just going to tell the truth. Because I was light-skinned, I'm considered a fuck ninja. You figure out what the word ninja means. Because I'm light-skinned, I'm automatically white. Fuck my black side, I'm just automatically white. Because I'm light-skinned, I haven't went through the same issues that plagues them. Even though I live paycheck to paycheck, one paycheck from being homeless, my goddamn self. I was raised in the hood. I know these streets like the back of my hand. But they don't see that. They just see a light-skinned person. And you're privileged. They think because you're light-skinned, you're privileged. I can tell you, I'm far from fucking privileged. Far from it. It's real bad. It's real bad in the black community, especially here. And I don't know if that's because people are programmed to that. I don't know why. But, yeah. But that's the thing, Cash. You say I'm not white. But in their mind, because I'm mixed, I'm white. Although I embrace both my sides, even the racist side, the Irish racist ass granddaddy. I embrace all of it because at the end of the day, I can't help who I am. I can't help who my parents are. I can't help I was brought in this world. All I can do is be me. But I will say, when you're a kid, they make you pick sides. And people can say, oh, that wasn't my experience. Well, good for you. I'm happy for you. But you can't sit here and say, well, I didn't experience that, because I absolutely experienced it. I'm not white enough to be white. I'm not black enough to be black. So where do I belong? Where do I fit in at? Nowhere. As a kid growing up, you were expected to pick a side if you were mixed. And I'm sorry, I'm not picking shit. My mama's white, my daddy's black. That's where I stand. If I gotta pick a side, I'm not doing it. Fuck sides. But when you're growing up, you deal with that shit. You deal with the colorism. You deal with kids bullying you because you're not black enough to be black. You're not white enough to be white. You end up growing up with complexes you had no fucking idea you even had until you go to therapy and you're like, oh my fucking God. And you realize your childhood was really kind of fucked up because of the shit that was done. Cash, I haven't either. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine being in a bubble all by myself. People don't understand. Like, I'm completely fine being in a bubble by myself. I don't really have to have anybody, you know. I don't have to have a million people around me. I'm not that. I'm not that. I'm completely fine being on my own, being with my dogs, and that's it. But yeah, colorism is real, and I don't give a damn what no black person say. They try to sit here and act like that shit ain't real and that they just love everybody. That's a motherfucking lie. Tell that to somebody who don't know. Exactly, Cash. I'm me, and that's all I can be is me. So that's why I say, like, in this city, race matters. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be like that, but that's how we're divided, really, by race. It's not by class here, because hell, everybody is almost poor. It's not. It's divided by race, and uh, and really, Tennessee is divided by race. I'm just gonna be honest, because everywhere I've been in Tennessee, there are certain parts that that you really shouldn't be around, especially after dark, because your ass might get fucked off. We still have those towns in Tennessee. I just want people to know that. Dutch, exactly. Well, Cash, that's because you're the right complexion. You got the complexion for the protection. My ass, though, I don't. Certain parts of Tennessee, I cannot go to. And that's just being real. I know people don't think that shit is still around, but it very much so is. Just like there's still towns in Arkansas. If your black ass get caught in it, you're fucked. Just like there's still towns in Alabama. If your black ass get caught in it, you're fucked. Because I went through one and I realized we were in a sundown town because I was with my ex and my sister because I was taking her to UT Chat for a summer program. And we had stopped somewhere in Alabama. And when we got out and I looked around and I seen folks was looking at us, I told my ex and my sister, get back in the truck. And they were like, why? I said, get y'all asses in the truck. I'll explain when we get up out of here. Because they're not understanding what I done picked up on. As soon as we crossed them city limits, y'all realized we was in a fucking sundown town. What? Yes. Y'all didn't see all them looks we were getting? Like, what the fuck are you doing here? You better get your ass up out of here. That shit still goes on. A whole 10 minutes late, Judge Jones Jr. I'm just saying.
Perry, you ready with your questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Dr. Ross. John Perry on behalf of Tadarrius Bean. I have just a few questions. A few moments ago, you were asked questions regarding the videos that you have viewed in your work in this case.
Yes.
And did you only look at the Skycam video, or did you look at body worn cameras?
Just the Skype.
And also, you were asked questions regarding, or you gave testimony regarding testing that's done when a person enters the hospital, correct, for substances. And can you tell me again how that testing occurred?
Well, the testing is done on blood that we collect at autopsy and blood that is provided to us by the hospital after an individual dies. The hospital itself, I don't believe did any drug testing, although they may have, I'm not aware of it. But the testing that we did, we collect those samples and we send them to a laboratory in Pennsylvania called National Medical Services. And they're the ones who actually do the testing.
The testing that you all perform, did you test for a substance called psilocybin?
Yes, that's included in the panel of drugs that we asked them to test for.
And that was tested based off of the sample that you received?
Both samples we collected at autopsy as well as samples that we received from the hospital.
And what was the earliest sample time that you would have received?
The sample of blood that we received a blood sample at that was labeled as being 9:37 on January 7th, 9:37 p.m. that is. Another blood sample labeled at 11:02 p.m. also on January 7th. A urine sample from 11:02 on January 7th, and another blood sample from 2 o'clock in the morning on January 8th. Those were the samples that we received from the hospital.
And can you tell the jury which of those samples was tested for psilocybin?
p.m. And we also tested the urine that was collected on January 7 at 11:02 p.m.
And based off of your knowledge, psilocybin is a faster dissipating sample, in other words, than THC, correct?
It might be. I honestly don't know the answer to that question, but even if it's cleared more rapidly from the blood, it should have been present in the urine.
And the urine would have been 3 hours later.
The urine was
3 hours after.
collected, but that's urine that's from blood that has been circulating through the body for the previous several hours, most likely.
No further question.
Dr. Ross, I want to ask you some questions about what I believe is Exhibit 25. Yes, Exhibit 25. These were the photographs of the injuries to Mr. Nichols' body that you looked at previously, correct?
Yes.
And in looking at these are healing wounds, would you say?
Well, they're in early stages of healing. There's some scab formation on the outer edges of it. There's some drying that's occurring.
And as a physician, you can look at something like this and have some sort of rough idea of how old or when that wound would be, correct?
You can make some general observations about it, yes.
So if your examination took place, I think, was it the 11th of January?
Yes.
Then, and the incident occurred the 7th of January. That would be 4 days ago. Would that look to you like a wound in about its 4th day of healing?
It would be consistent.
Its 4th day of healing?
It would be consistent with it, yes.
And same thing for this wound on the knee?
Yes.
Would that be consistent with the 4th day of healing?
It would, yes.
And this one on the elbow, would that be consistent with that 4th day of healing?
Yes, it would.
Now, one of the pictures, though, was of a cracked tooth. You
Yes.
recall any of that one? Now, can you look at that cracked tooth as a physician and tell when that tooth was cracked?
No, I cannot.
Could have been a week before, could have been a month.
Yes.
Now, my guess is, if I ask you what the cause of death was in this case, your answer would be homicide, correct?
That's the manner of death.
That's the manner of death. So the cause of death would have been the mechanics that caused the death to come about.
Yes.
Would that be a fairly accurate way of saying?
Yeah, the cause of death is the physiologic process or the disease process of the body that leads to the death itself.
And so the first step in the cause of death in Mr. Nichols' case was the trauma to his head, correct?
Correct.
And you reviewed that video some time ago, and you watched it again today.
Yes.
And you saw the force of those blows to his head, correct?
Correct.
And the amount of trauma that you observed once you went into the brain, would that be consistent with the severity of those blows?
Yes, it would be.
And so that's the trauma to the brain, and then the next step in the process is that trauma causes the brain to swell, the brain tissue to swell.
Yes.
And then what happens is the swelling cuts off or restricts, if you will, the blood flow.
Yes, there's restriction of blood flow to some areas of the brain because of swelling.
And the important part about the restriction of the blood flow is the blood contains oxygen,
Yes.
correct? And oxygen is what these various organs of the body need in order to survive, correct?
Correct.
And so what you had was a lack of oxygen, and then that caused organ after organ to fail, correct?
Correct.
And the only cause of death was the blows to the brain, is that correct?
Correct.
I believe that's all the questions I have.
Yes. Dr. Ross, you and I talked this morning and you told me, I think quite emphatically, you leave issues of toxicology to the toxicologist. Remember I asked you some questions
Generally
today?
speaking, that's true.
But then I heard testimony about toxicology, so I thought I'd follow up with you.
Sure.
Now, when it comes to the blood and urine drawn by the hospital, I believe that's St. Francis Hospital, is that right?
That's correct.
That'd be the emergency room department, right?
Either emergency room or the ICU or wherever.
Analyze it and provide medical treatment, correct?
That is correct.
And that was on January 7th.
Yes.
Then, after Mr. Nichols unfortunately passed away, which I think is on the 10th, the law enforcement then sought from the medical provider any blood or urine that they might have left over for medical treatment. Is that a fair statement?
I don't know if law enforcement did. I know that we requested, our office did. But I don't know if law enforcement.
Look in your file there and see what date you requested blood and urine.
It doesn't appear to be documented in the records that I have as to when we requested that.
So what does that tell us?
That's not in the records that I have here, but there's probably other documentation either in the file or in email records that we, or even a phone call that we may have made to the hospital requesting those samples.
Is it important in your field of pathology that if you're going to have analyzed blood or urine, that blood and urine sample be, for lack of a better word, fresh?
As long as it's refrigerated.
Well, I don't want to split hairs here. It has to be preserved, is that right?
Yes.
Just like my loaf of bread needs to be preserved, right?
Correct.
Because what happens if it's not preserved?
It can begin to break down.
And grade.
Yes,
And the analysis of it, or the levels of different things in there would dissipate, is that right?
depends on the drugs that are being tested for.
And in this case, you have nothing that you're prepared to come and testify in court today, whether or not the hospital preserved that blood or urine, do you?
I don't know the conditions under which the hospital stored those samples, that is correct.
And if they're not law enforcement, they would not be preserving it for you, they're trying to treat the patient, right?
They are trying to treat the patient, correct.
Then, on January 11th, I believe the record will reflect, the TBI inventoried Mr. Nichols's car. You don't know about that, but that's already been in the record. We can assume that you did not test blood and urine for what Mr. Perry asked you about, psilocybin.
We didn't specifically request that, but what we requested was called an expanded panel. And the expanded panel that the laboratory runs includes psilocybin.
And now you get to the point I was going to ask. The expanded panel wasn't asked for by your office. The expanded panel that would search for psilocybin was not asked for until after the inventory of the Tyre Nichols car, which occurred on January 11th.
No, I mean, we approached.
I like this girl. I like her. She already. Your Honor, can we approach the bench? Look, she doing more than Paul asked. I like her.
Master C, let's back into it another way. When did you open your file at the West Tennessee Forensic Pathology, whatever it is you're in charge of? When was that file?
The file was created when the case was reported to us by the hospital.
But the autopsy was not performed till when?
The following day,
Okay. The whole autopsy was performed the following day.
on the 11th.
So, can we at least assume that you did not have the blood and urine of Tyre Nichols before January 11th?
That is correct.
When was your autopsy completed?
It was completed on the early afternoon of January 11th.
When was the final autopsy, as you called it, certified? When was the final certified copy of the autopsy published?
The report was signed on April 25 of 2023.
4 months later.
About 3.5 months, yes.
Okay, don't want to split hairs. All right, 4 months later, 3.5 months later. May I have a moment with? I don't have anything further, Your Honor.
All right, redirect.
Briefly, Your Honor. Psilocybin?
Yes.
What is that?
That is a substance present in a certain variety of mushrooms. It's a hallucinogen.
You were asked about blood samples or urine samples from the hospital. In your everyday duties under Ross, is that part of autopsies, obtaining those samples from a hospital? When a patient comes to you from hospital treatment, does that happen in the normal course of business?
Yes, that's standard practice. And what we did in this case is what we do in every other case that we get from the hospital.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Anything else from this witness? All right, so those are all questions. Start down. discuss some things, and we will bring you all back as soon as we need to get you back in here to discuss further. All right, so we'll go ahead and excuse the state having rested their case. Is there any motion to address this? Not a problem. So we will go ahead with the state not having rested their case. We will go ahead and take a recess to allow the attorneys to contact their witnesses and see where we are scheduling for transfer.
Did I just hear that right? I just heard that right? They're going into recess because the defense witnesses didn't show up. Did it? Huh? How? Like what? Houseway? How the fuck does that happen? So y'all didn't call them yesterday to make sure they ass would be there today? No, they said the state rested and that they're going into recess to give defense the time to call their witnesses. You cannot make this shit up. You cannot make this shit up. Yeah, that's what it said. Oh, no.
State having rested their case. Is there any motion to address this? State having rested their case.
Well, all righty then. Yeah, the state rested. And the defense witnesses ain't showed up. Okay, so let me look at it from this point. Maybe, just maybe, defense thought state they wasn't gonna rest this soon. Just maybe. I don't know. But what the fuck? Defense witnesses doesn't show up. Wow. Yeah, I'm just like I don't know. So you maybe they did tell them, like, the medical examiner and the state's gonna take a while, so show up after lunch. I don't know, but yeah, defense is not, their witnesses ain't there apparently. Wow. And the judge is being nice enough to let the defense try to call these folks and get them to show up. Yeah. It's still not, well, hold on. It's still not as bad as Karen Reed's trial. So I'm grateful for that. It's still not as bad as Karen Reed, because Karen Reed's a fucking shit show. That's why I'm like, I can't sit through a second one. I can't. Hell, the first one fucked me up. I'm not letting go of the motherfucking red Solo cups. I'm not letting that shit go. They collected evidence in red Solo cups. Said enough for me. Okay? All right. But yeah, state rested, and defense witnesses ain't there. Alex was crazy. His trial was crazy as hell. I will say that his trial was wild. And see, I had to call my homie on that one, because he has worked on movie sets. I haven't. The most I've done is concerts and plays. As far as like working production on shows and stuff, he has worked on movie sets. And I called him and I asked him, I was like, so if this happens and somebody dies, yada, yada, I explained the situation. He was like, it's the armor's fault, 100%. Because it's their duty to make sure, for one, that those guns are locked up, and two, you're not supposed to have live ammo. So, I mean, you can have live ammo, but not near like filming areas and stuff. Yeah. And it's supposed to be locked up at all times. It's not supposed to be laying on a table where some actor can pick it up, fire it, thinking it's blanks, and kill somebody. No, yeah. Oh, I didn't say he was innocent. I didn't say that, Cash. I just said I called a freak. Because I still think it's Alex's fault. Because why the fuck was you picking up shit you ain't had no business picking up? You know your ass ain't been out here hunting and none of that shit. So why you picking up shit you know your ass don't have no clue about? Besides on movie sets. Get the fuck out of here. No. He's just as guilty as the armorer, but the armorer had a hell of a lot more responsibility compared to Alec. He's just the actor. He don't fucking know. But apparently her ass didn't either, because she got hired just off the family name. Didn't nobody check her credentials. She was a shitty armorer to begin with. But yeah, no, I definitely think he had some responsibility in that, because like I said, you knew your ass didn't have no experience compared to like us country ass folks that, you know, some of us carry daily. So why in the hell was you playing on set like that? Beyond me. I don't get it, don't understand. But it was the armor's responsibility to make sure those firearms were locked up, just like the ammo shouldn't have been live ammo, it should have been blanks. She fucked up. She fucked up big time. I heard they were trying to get her out too, if I'm not mistaken. Did it get denied? I know her. She tried to file an appeal a while ago. I don't know if it got denied or not. I haven't kept up with it after that. Because I'm like, yeah, that just goes to show if you got money, you can get out of shit. And if you ain't got no name and money, your ass ain't getting out of it. She was the scapegoat. They threw her ass clean up under that bus and reversed that bitch on her ass. So, absolutely. That man, he had responsibility. Just like the Karen Reed trial. Yeah, she was drunk. I ain't gonna deny that shit. All of them were drunk. And that included police officers. But I just feel like the first trial. I don't know about this trial because I haven't watched it, haven't paid attention to it. I ain't been watching clips or nothing, so I can't tell you what's happened with it at all. I just felt like law enforcement did a shitty investigation, and I felt like the prosecutors lacked severely in that courtroom and tried to connect dots that shouldn't have been connected at all. It was a media circus to be, especially when you had a certain person start covering it. And I know some people feel very strongly about that person and how he fucked it up, or how people don't like him no more. I don't know. Don't really care because I don't really follow what happened with all of that. So there's that. So, but it's turned into a fucking media circus. It has. Karen Reed's trial is a media circus, and I just, no. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I wasn't there that night, you know. I don't know. But there was a lot of things that just made me side eye the whole situation. Like I said, for one, them red Solo cups, I'm not letting that shit go. Never ever will I let it go. Hell to the no. Then the dog being rehomed. Then the injuries wasn't consistent with a hit and run. A lot of it, I don't know. Yeah, his family deserves some type of justice, but do I think they're going to get it by constantly trying her? No. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's way too much bullshit that's doesn't happen for me to be like, yeah, guilty, 100%, 100%. I just, I don't have enough facts or evidence to come with that, verdict. Cash agree. To me, it is anyway, because one, if they do get convicted, and I hope it does start a pattern all across the U.S. to where, like I said, yeah, Derek Chauvin, 20 years. Rodney King's people, when the trial was all said and done, some of them served 2 to 3 years, and that one was a horrific beating. You've had so many that ended up with a not guilty result. And it's disheartening. So I hope with this case that it does show, yeah, you can get cops convicted, and, we need to start holding them to a higher accountability when it comes to being out here, and you're supposed to know the law and enforce the law. And I know there's 1,000,001 laws. You can't possibly learn every damn law. But some of these cops are dumber than a fucking box of rocks. I'm just going to be honest. They are. I've seen some cops on videos make up fucking laws. Then when they get sued, they're like, what the fuck? What you did to that person was completely illegal, sir. So there's a lot of things that hasn't happened that should have happened. So I hope with this case it does, no, cops can get prosecuted and get max sentence, because that's what it should be. And I know in some cases there will be certain circumstances to where it was truly justifiable. But in this one, it wasn't. I don't care how you twist it, flip it, try to make it fit. It's not justifiable at all. You have one cop admitting when his fat ass, Preston, when your ass pepper sprayed everybody, because it wasn't Haley, it was just an ass. Or Preston, not just. And he sat here and said, I hope they stomp his ass out. So there goes to show that they were already beating folks. DOJ had already announced that, yes, they did have a run tax here, that if your ass run, it's an automatic ass whooping, and I don't care who you ask. You can go to anybody in this city and they'll tell you. If they ran from police, they got their ass beat afterwards. Goes to show that the two that turned state witness and have testified were some of the brutal beatings, because let's not forget Mills' ass yesterday. Mills sitting here saying he had to turn his head because he couldn't watch them beat shit out of him. But you fucking beat him with a baton. You struck him how many times? Well, I struck him on the arms and legs. What? Oh, great. Another death in the city, and another person finna spend life in jail. Great. Oh, you motherfucker Fox. I mean, not Fox, ABC. I'm sick of y'all asses today, too. Shit, it's almost time to go to lunch. Hell. No, Cash, you fit. I don't. You fit in just fine. Now, maybe the accent, maybe not, maybe, just maybe, because, you know, your accent is very, very thick. What the hell? Hang on. What the hell y'all doing, bro? Did the cameraman say, fuck it, I'm going on lunch? If the judge won't call it, I'm finna go. Did the cameraman? We don't want to shop with Eve. Ah, look at that. Look at that. Hang on. Yeah, I think the cameraman did say, fuck it, I'm going to lunch. I think the cameraman said that for real. And so did Fox. So I went to Fox too. They said, nah, fuck that. We going to lunch. So yeah, I think everybody said, fuck it, Judge. If you won't call it, we gonna call it. And they went to lunch, I guess. I don't know. That shit was wild. So they should be, I'm assuming, back around 1 o'clock. I'm assuming. I'm trying to see if Fox is coming back. Because that shit was wild. I did see the judge was saying something, but because the audio was off, we didn't hear it. I did not. Oh, I know they're fucked up about that because he's created so, man. And they would catch hell. You know that? They would catch hell about that dog. Yeah, he lived a good life. I know his well, I don't know his owners, but I watch his owners at Dog Dynasty. And the training that goes into those dogs, that him, his wife, his kids, everybody's all involved. Everybody trains these dogs. They're massive as shit. His bloodline is impeccable, I have to say. Some of his offspring are beautiful. Not as big as their daddy. I think only one of them got bigger than him. But he was, people would spend money to get an offspring from him. And when I say money, I'm not talking no small chump change. I'm talking about brand new car. Excuse me, brand new car type money. Down payment on a house type money. His dogs are not cheap. He does breed. I will say he does breed. I don't really, but the audience that he sells to is really the rich. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest about that. That's who he sells to, the rich. So I hate to hear that, but like I said, he has a strong offspring. He's created some beasts, girls and boys. I think they got his family tree up. They've posted his family tree and his offspring. But yeah, for his offspring, you had to spend money to get one of his babies. So I hate to hear that, but he lived a good long life. They always were working with him, spoiled his ass to a T. So that's sad to hear, though, because he was a gentle giant for real. Unless you were, now, if you were trying to attack his kids or something and his family, wasn't no motherfucking gentle giant. But he was a big old baby. Stop, Zeus. I'm watching you do it. Stop. Yeah, he fucks with me. Don't come over here fucking with me because I tell you to stop. No, ain't no camera time today. I love you too, but ain't no camera time today. You gotta get down, bro. Nothing. Get around. Bruh, we just gonna keep back and forth. Get down. Get down. Zeus. Zeus, I do not want to play. I don't want to play. I don't want to do all of that right now. No. How in the hell are you sick and trying to play? Pick a struggle, son. Pick a struggle. Either you're going to be a big ass baby or you're going to play. Which one you going to do? Which one you going to do? Huh? You got your sister talking. Good job. See, sounding helpless over there. Now get down. No, he don't want snuggles. He over here trying to bite my hand and shit. He want to play. But you see, which one is it? Zeus. Get down. If you get down, I'll take you. I'm finna end this live anyway because they're on lunch, son. Go. Thank you. You're doing the most. And for what? Well, about the same with Zeus and Callie. Callie does. I mean, she's smart. Don't get me wrong. Callie is smart now. But she does not think it all the way through before she does whatever action she's doing. A lot of times she don't. I be like, you're a dumbass. You're a dumbass. It's official. You're a dumbass. Which is crazy as hell to me because you can catch on to tricks and all type of stuff. You know, all a shit ton of commands, but when it comes to other shit, you're slow. I hate to say it, you're just slow. I love her slow ass though. She just slow. She fast but slow. So, but yeah, we finna go to lunch, y'all. So I invited y'all to go get y'all something to eat because y'all know we finna have another 3 to 4 hours, maybe 5. If Judge goes past 5 again today. But I will catch y'all in an hour. So probably about 1 o'clock we'll be coming back. So, and yeah. So I'll see y'all then. Bye, y'all, and I'll catch y'all on part 2.